If a player somehow manages to appear in all 82 regular season games, it's a pretty big deal, especially in today's NBA. Whoever's able to do it definitely deserves a pat on the back. But what about playing 88 regular season games in one season? Well, let me introduce you to WALT Bellamy, the man who holds the record for the most regular season games played in a single season with 88. Now, you may be asking yourself, how is that even possible? Well, the answer is fairly simple. You see, Bellamy began the 1968-69 season with the New York Knicks, but in December of 1968, he was traded to the Detroit Pistons. The thing is, the Pistons had played 6 less games than the Knicks at the time of the trade. So instead of having to play just 47 more games, which is how many games the Knicks had left on their schedule, he had to play 53 more regular season games, because that's how much the Pistons had left to play. It's no secret that the Currys are phenomenal three-point shooters. It clearly runs in the family, and perhaps it runs in the name as well. Eddie Curry played 11 seasons in the NBA, and throughout those 11 seasons, he never missed a three-point shot. Okay, obviously he didn't attempt a whole lot, but when he did, it was money. Now, he only attempted a grand total of 2 three-pointers in his entire NBA career, but that still doesn't take away the interesting and hilarious fact that he technically shot 100% from three-point range, because he just so happened to make both of them. The first one on February 17th, 2004 against the Toronto Raptors, which I unfortunately couldn't find any footage of, but I was able to find a clip of the second one, which took place on April 7th, 2007 against the Milwaukee Bucks.
He looks and fires. Curry's gonna throw up a jumper. He hit it! Eddie Curry! Eddie Curry! And we're going to overtime on a three-pointer by the big man!
I guess there's just something about the name Curry. Maybe some of you guys should think about naming your future kids that, because clearly you can't go wrong. Did you know that every single team from the Western Conference that managed to win the NBA championship is either based in Texas or California since 1979? As you can see, the last 2 Western Conference teams who won an NBA championship, other than a Texas or California team, were the Portland Trail Blazers in 1977 and the Seattle Supersonics in 1979. But since then, every NBA championship that was won in the West belongs to either a Texas or California team. The Lakers, Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs, Houston Rockets, and the Dallas Mavericks have all brought home at least one championship since 1979, obviously with some winning multiple titles during that span. Every other team from outside of those states in the Western Conference came up short in the finals. The Blazers lost to the Pistons in 1990 and also lost to the Bulls in 1992. The Phoenix Suns lost to the Bulls in 1993. The Supersonics lost to the Bulls in 1996. The Utah Jazz lost in the finals in back-to-back years in 1997 and in 1998. The Oklahoma City Thunder lost to the Heat in 2012, and finally the Suns once again lost in 2021 to the Bucks. So it's either the Eastern teams or, like I said, the Texas and California teams who have been winning all the championships for quite some time now. Now sure, I know they're the only Western states to have multiple teams. That certainly helps their chances, but not one other team outside of those states could get it done since 1979? I think that's pretty insane. Can you believe that it's already been 14 years since the Seattle Supersonics became the team now known as the Oklahoma City Thunder? Seattle's last season in the NBA was the 07-08 season, which was Kevin Durant's rookie year. But even with the Sonics being gone for so long, they still won a playoff series more recently than the Sacramento Kings have, despite the latter still being an NBA team to this day. We're not talking about who made the playoffs more recently, we're talking about who last tasted victory in the playoffs, and that was the Supersonics in 2005, against none other than Sacramento, ironically. And we have to go all the way back to 2004 to get to when the Kings last won a playoff series. The Kings had all this time to change that fact, with Seattle no longer with us, until that day comes where Sacramento can finally get themselves another playoff series victory. This graphic will sadly continue to live on. It's crazy to think that Kobe Bryant had more 50-point games in a week than Dwayne Wade ever had in his entire career. No, seriously. From March 16th, 2007 to March 23rd, 2007, Kobe had 4 consecutive games with at least 50 points. And I say at least because for 2 of them, he actually crossed the 60-point threshold. It's crazy because Wade is an elite scorer himself. He had a total of 3 50-point games in his career, which is no easy feat, but Kobe made it look extremely easy in just a 1-week span. His total amount of games with at least 50 points? 25. When you get put on a poster, it can be pretty embarrassing depending on who put you on a poster. On the other hand, if Vince Carter is the one who dunks on you, there's really no shame in that at all. He posterized countless amount of defenders throughout his iconic career. But apparently Alonzo Mourning didn't care if it was Vince. He would hold a grudge for years after Carter did this to him back in 2005.
Carter's got it. Carter drives. Oh! Big finish. Vince Carter with a brilliant dunk.
No, literally, I'm not exaggerating. Take a listen yourself.
He didn't talk to me like that for, as he shouldn't, 6-7 years?
No. 6 or 7 years?
He shouldn't. Not after that. I wouldn't
Would you
talk
still
to
not
you
be
either.
speaking?
Vince actually dunked on Mourning several times over the years, but I guess there was something about this dunk that caused the resentment. I mean, on the bright side, it's not like he got the Frederick Weiss treatment, if that makes him feel any better. If you're not quite familiar with who Quintel Woods is, all you need to know is that he was one of the members of the infamous Jailblazer squad. And that particular team was referred to as that because several of their players had many off-court problems, and Woods fit right in. I'm not gonna go through the laundry list of all the stuff he did, but there is one story that got my attention. One time, back when he was a rookie in 2003, he got pulled over by a cop for speeding and was asked to produce an ID. And since his driver's license was suspended at the time, he was forced to get creative. He pulled out a rookie basketball trading card of himself, thinking that would do the trick, but obviously it wasn't enough to get him out of trouble. You gotta hand it to him, it was definitely a nice try. You would think that the Orlando Magic chose their name because of Disney World, you know, being the most magical place on earth. But that's not exactly the case. You see, an Orlando newspaper held a name the team contest for the fans once they found out they were gonna be getting an NBA team in the late 80s. And after thousands of potential team names were entered, only a few emerged as finalists, including the Tropics, the Juice, the Challengers, and the Heat, which was not taken at the time. The committee understandably needed some time to think it over, and while doing so, the daughter of one of the businessmen who brought this team together, Pat Williams, came to visit him in Orlando. After spending some time together around the city, his daughter said something that had an effect on him. Quote, "I really like this place. This place is like magic." And just like that, Orlando found their team name. Now sure, if I had to bet, she most likely came to that conclusion because of Disney World, but it's still an interesting backstory nonetheless. Them being called the Magic because of Disney World isn't as much of a given as people think. It's pretty well known that Kobe Bryant had a complicated relationship with his parents, to say the least. And it looks like their problems all started when Kobe's parents did not approve of his marriage to Vanessa way back in the early 2000s. Whatever the reason was, Kobe still decided to go against his parents' wishes and marry Vanessa. And as one could predict, Kobe's family did not attend their wedding. Now I bring all this up to say, I was absolutely shocked when I found out that Kobe's dad, Joe Jellybean Bryant, was the head coach of the LA Sparks from 2005 to 2007. You know, Los Angeles' WNBA team. I know it doesn't sound all that crazy until you think about how Kobe and his dad didn't have much of a relationship around that time. It must have been awkward for them working in the same arena while not being on speaking terms. They more than likely ran into each other from time to time, if I had to guess. Which raises the question, was this a potential attempt/strategy on Joe's part to get closer to Kobe? I mean, after all, he didn't have to take that Sparks job. This might also explain why we never really saw Kobe sitting courtside at a Sparks game all that much until he started going with his daughter in recent years. And for our last fact, did you know that when Carmelo Anthony was in grade school, he got in trouble for going around telling his teachers and fellow classmates that his real name is Tyrone? His reasoning for that? Well, to put it simply, no one in his class could pronounce Carmelo.